Hi there, my name is Haley Bernusky. I'm a Master of Science candidate in the Department of Psychiatry at Dalhousie University. In this video, I will be discussing preliminary results from the first of two studies I'm conducting for my master's thesis. In this first study, I'm striving to understand if anxiety mediates the relationship between cannabis use and psychotic-like experiences in emerging adults, and I'm using a diverse multi-site university sample to find out. My email address is listed on the poster here at the bottom. I am more than happy to answer questions, and feedback is of course always welcome. So thank you so much for being here, and let's get started. Cannabis is commonly used among Canadian emerging adults. Over 50% of those aged 20 to 24 years reported cannabis use within the past year. Of past year emerging adult users, 26% of males and 24% of females use daily or almost daily. Many emerging adults in Canada also attend post-secondary institutions, where nearly 32% of students reported cannabis use in the past 6 months. Cannabis use is related to psychotic-like experiences, or PLEs, in a dose-dependent manner, such that higher frequency and potency increases risk for psychotic-like experiences. The psychosis spectrum ranges from subclinical PLEs to clinically significant psychotic disorders. It's thought that the same cannabis use risk factors exist across the spectrum. However, the relationship between cannabis use and psychotic-like experiences, especially in the developmentally vulnerable period of emerging adulthood, remains to be fully understood, including the possible role that anxiety may play. Additionally, more frequent cannabis use is related to increased anxiety symptoms, and those with anxiety are more likely to report PLEs. In Canada, 23% of those aged 18 to 24 years reported scores equating to moderate to severe generalized anxiety symptoms. Given the high prevalence of cannabis use and anxiety in emerging adults, I decided it was important to begin evaluating the role of anxiety in the link between cannabis use and psychotic-like experiences. Specifically, I hypothesized that consuming cannabis more frequently would lead to more anxiety in emerging adults, in turn leading to greater psychotic-like experiences overall. I tested the model using cross-sectional self-report survey data collected in fall 2021 from first and second year emerging adult undergraduate students across 5 Canadian university campuses as part of the UniVenture Substance Misuse Prevention Project. The final sample consisted of 1,507 participants with a mean age of 19.2 years, and 67% of the sample was female. Validated measures were administered to capture demographics, cannabis use frequency, anxiety, and psychotic-like experiences. The CoVenture drug use battery provided current cannabis use frequency information, serving as the predictor in my model. The 7-item generalized anxiety disorder scale measured participants' anxiety symptoms, serving as the mediator in the model. And lastly, a 9-item psychotic-like experiences questionnaire assessed participants' PLEs, the outcome variable in the present study. The data revealed that 51.1% of the sample had used cannabis at some point in their lifetimes. More specifically, 34.1% said they'd used cannabis in the last 3 months. A very high proportion of the sample, 77.2%, reported having one or more psychotic-like experiences in the last 3 months. And the GAD-7 was the measure of anxiety used in the present study, where a score of 10 out of a possible 21 is the cutoff signaling moderate levels of anxiety. The mean GAD-7 score in the sample was 10.1, so the sample was on average experiencing moderate anxiety. 49.8% of the total sample scored 10 or higher, indicating moderate to severe anxiety. This may be reflective of the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, as these rates are elevated compared to pre-pandemic anxiety rates in university students. The bivariate correlations between the variables can be seen in the center of the poster here. Cannabis use was significantly correlated with anxiety, and anxiety was significantly correlated with psychotic-like experiences, but unexpectedly, the bivariate relationship between cannabis use and PLEs was not significant. Next, I tested a simple mediation model with frequency of cannabis use as the predictor, psychotic-like experiences as the outcome, and anxiety as the mediator using the process macro for SPSS. I used bootstrapping to test indirect effects with 95% confidence intervals to determine if the direct path from cannabis use frequency to PLEs or the indirect path through anxiety was more relevant for Canadian emerging adult undergraduates. I found that both the A path from cannabis use frequency to anxiety and the B path from anxiety to psychotic-like experiences were significant at a P of less than 0.001. The associated indirect effect was significant, as evidenced by the 95% confidence interval that did not contain 0, seen here at the bottom of the page. This means that support for the mediation model was found, as the indirect effect of cannabis use frequency on PLEs through anxiety was significant. This suggests that, as hypothesized, more frequent cannabis use was associated with greater anxiety, which in turn was associated with more psychotic-like experiences. The direct effect C' path from cannabis use frequency to psychotic-like experiences was non-significant, suggesting that the relationship between cannabis use frequency and psychotic-like experiences in university students is fully explained through anxiety symptoms. The results of my study are in line with previous work by Reeves and colleagues, who also found anxiety to mediate the relationship between cannabis use and psychotic-like experiences in their sample of American undergraduates. This replication of results in a larger Canadian university sample, and which focused on the emerging adult age range, is important, as mediation models have the potential to reveal processes to be targeted by prevention efforts. These preliminary results provide additional support, suggesting that anxiety is worth considering when examining the relationship between cannabis use and PLEs. Evidence suggests that reducing anxiety in frequent cannabis users may prevent the development or worsening of PLEs. Anxiety concerns may be addressed with cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, among others. Given the high frequency of cannabis use and the high prevalence of psychotic-like experiences and anxiety seen in Canadian emerging adult undergraduates, increasing our understanding of the impacts of frequent cannabis use on mental health is imperative. Further work for my master's thesis shall examine the impact of biological sex as a moderator on the present model to glean more nuanced results, determining whether the mediation pathway through anxiety is statistically more relevant for emerging adult females versus males. Understanding the role that anxiety plays as a mediator between cannabis use frequency and PLEs, and how these relationships differ across sex in the developmentally vulnerable emerging adult population, may allow for the development and implementation of more targeted prevention measures and treatments. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for being here. Again, my contact information is at the bottom, and I would be happy to hear from you. Thank you so much.